He sat there stunned, his mind reeling as he wondered why his uncle would be in possession of her picture. Reaching back into the envelope, he searched for more but found nothing, only the single photograph. With quick precision, he pulled out his cell phone, snapped a photo of it, and carefully placed the picture back inside, returning the envelope exactly as he had found it. Rising to his feet, his mind swirled with countless thoughts, the weight of unanswered questions pressing heavily against him. Before he could leave, his cell phone rang. He answered immediately. It was Master Shen. His voice was calm yet firm as he informed Liwei that his men had checked on Amara and found she was not in any danger, that she had only pressed the panic button by mistake. Relief flickered across Liwei's face, though his tone remained composed as he thanked Master Shen for keeping his promise to protect her on his behalf. Master Shen assured him that he never broke his promises and reminded him that both of them were hurting. He added that his interference had been for their own good. Liwei, unwilling to linger on the subject, cut the conversation short. He told him there was no need to speak further about it, that what had happened between him and Amara was in the past. Still, he asked Master Shen to continue protecting her, admitting that although things between them had ended, her safety still concerned him. Shifting the subject, he promised to send Shen what he had just discovered in his uncle's study. After hanging up, he stood silently for a moment. Thoughts of Amara clawed at the edges of his mind, but he forced them down, refusing to let the ache consume him any longer. Composure restored, he walked out to join the others for dinner. Meanwhile, Amara sat alone in her room, her phone clutched tightly in her hands. She stared at the screen, torn between calling Liwei or sending him a message. The longing inside her was unbearable. She missed him desperately, and regret gnawed at her for pushing him away. She cursed herself for letting Master Shen's words get to her, for not fighting harder, for not standing by Liwei's side and telling him they could weather the storm together. With trembling hands, she gathered her courage and dialed his number. She pressed the phone against her ear, her heart racing, but disappointment quickly flickered across her face when the call went straight to voicemail. Her hands shook as she lowered the phone, staring at the screen. Determined, she opened WeChat and began typing a message. The first line was an apology, but she deleted it. She typed again, asking to meet him, but erased that too, fearing it sounded desperate. Finally, she wrote that she missed him. Closing her eyes, she hit send, her heart pounding with fragile hope. When she opened her eyes again, her hope shattered in an instant. A notification appeared on her screen. She couldn't send messages to Liwei because he had blocked her. The sharpness of it felt like a knife piercing through her chest. Her hands trembled violently as she checked his profile, only to confirm the cruel truth. He had indeed blocked her. The realization broke her completely. Tears streamed down her face as she clutched her phone, the pain in her chest unbearable. She collapsed onto her bed, hugging her pillow tightly as her sobs filled the silence. The thought tore through her, that Liwei had truly moved on, that he had gone so far as to block her, that he had not even shown up when she pressed the panic button. In that moment, the depth of her love for him became painfully clear. His coldness, his refusal to even acknowledge her existence, his treatment of her as nothing more than a stranger. It all shattered her into pieces. As she cried, her heart breaking, a desperate wish took root inside her, that she could turn back time, take back her words, and undo the mistake that had pushed him away. The following day after class, Amara sat alone in the quiet of the study hall, her books spread out in front of her. She tried to bury herself in her work, forcing her mind to focus on equations and notes rather than the ache in her chest. She told herself that maybe if she drowned in schoolwork, if she immersed herself deep enough in books, the pain would dull, and she could finally learn to move forward. As she sat there, eyes fixed on the pages but thoughts drifting elsewhere, Kevin walked in. Without a word, He sat beside her and placed a takeaway box of food on the desk in front of her. His voice was gentle but firm as he told her that he knew she wouldn't feel comfortable going to the cafeteria, not after everything that had happened, so he had gone ahead and bought food for her. Amara glanced at him, a faint, weary smile tugging at her lips. She thanked him softly, but admitted she had no appetite. Concern darkened Kevin's eyes. He leaned closer, telling her that he knew she was hurting, but that didn't mean she should stop eating. Her health still mattered. He urged her not to let what had happened consume her, promising that one day she would look back at this moment and even laugh about it. He opened the box, scooped some rice onto a spoon, and held it out to her, insisting she take at least a bite. Amara shook her head and resisted, telling him again that she was fine, but Kevin persisted, his determination unwavering as he tried to make her eat. Just then, the door opened, and Liwei's assistant stepped inside. His gaze shifted directly to Amara as he walked over to where they sat. His words were brief and formal. He told her that the university director wanted to see her in his office. Amara's face lit up instantly. Her heart raced as hope ignited within her. Could this be her chance? Could she finally see Liwei, speak to him, explain everything, and tell him the truth about how she really felt? Without hesitation, she rose to her feet, telling the assistant she would go right away. She hurried out alongside him, leaving Kevin sitting alone, his expression tightening with unease. For a fleeting moment, he had thought he might finally be getting closer to Amara. But now, with Liwei pulling her back into his world again, he felt that chance slipping further away. Amara followed the assistant down the hall, her heart burning with anticipation. Every step echoed louder than the last, her pulse quickening as she neared the office. When the door finally opened, she walked in slowly, alone, her breath trembling in her chest. Her heart pounded furiously as she stood before him. Liwei was seated behind his desk, his presence commanding even in silence. Summoning every ounce of courage, her voice quivered as she greeted him politely. Liwei raised his head, his eyes locked on hers. Liwei sat there, his eyes fixed on her as she stood before him. Just her presence alone was enough to drag every memory they had ever shared back into his mind. Having her so close only deepened the ache inside him. She was right there, yet she felt impossibly far away. For a fleeting second, he thought about how much he missed her, about how desperately he wished things could return to what they once were. But then the memory of her cutting words came crashing back, snapping him into reality. His expression hardened, his posture straightening as he forced himself to remain composed, his gaze unwavering. Breaking the silence, his voice was calm but cold as he addressed her formally. "Student Amara." The sound of it pierced her heart. Hearing him refer to her that way with such distance made her chest tighten with pain. Liwei asked if she was aware of the things circulating online about the two of them. Amara nodded, quietly admitting she was. He continued, stating firmly that it had been a mistake on his part to allow such a scandal to arise, and that he would be addressing the media to set things straight. He explained that he had called her in to instruct her on what she should say to the press, so that their stories would align. Amara listened in silence, disappointment flickering across her face. For a moment she had thought, hoped, that he had called her here to talk about what had happened between them, to finally confront their personal matters and maybe fix what was broken. But instead, he remained detached, professional, as though every emotion had been drained from him. His coldness cut into her like a knife. Still holding her gaze, Liwei took out a document and handed it to her, his voice even as he told her that everything she needed to say was written there. He instructed her to study it carefully and not make any mistakes. Amara stepped closer to take it, and as she did, her hand brushed against his. The touch was brief but electric, and both of them froze. Their eyes locked in a charged silence, heat flooding the space between them. Amara's heart pounded wildly, as though she were falling in love with him all over again. She searched his gaze, desperate to find even the faintest trace of emotion, a sign that he, too, missed her. But liwei pulled back almost instantly, reclaiming his composure with iron control. He reminded her in a clipped tone to go through the document carefully. Amara lowered her eyes, scanning the words on the page. The script was carefully crafted. She was to say she was close to the university director only because she was a recipient of a special scholarship he had personally overseen. He had visited her dorm that day merely because she had been struggling under the weight of her responsibilities and had even considered quitting the scholarship, and he had come to guide her back on track. Nothing more. Nothing personal. Just a professional relationship between director and student. Liwei watched her as she read, his eyes lingering on her face. He noticed the faint swell of her eyes, the traces of tears she had tried to hide. A part of him wanted to ask what had happened, to reach out and bridge the gap. But he stopped himself, reminding himself of her decision to sever their bond, to push him away. He forced his questions down and remained silent. When she looked up, Amara told him softly that she would do her best to say exactly what was written. Liwei gave a short nod and dismissed her, but Amara did not move. She stood there, her heart pounding, unwilling to let the moment end so easily. She wanted to tell him everything, that she missed him, that she regretted what she had said, that she wanted to mend what was broken. Liwei's sharp gaze never faltered as he asked if there was anything else she wished to address. Gathering her courage, Amara's trembling voice admitted that there was something she wanted to tell him. She stepped a little closer, bracing herself as she began to reveal that she had said things to him. But before she could finish, Liwei cut her off. His tone was firm, almost unyielding, as he told her there was no room for discussing personal matters. If what she wanted to say had nothing to do with the university or the scandal, then their meeting was over. Amara's lips parted as though she might plead with him, but his cold, unreadable expression left no space for hope. Finally, his voice cut through again, calm, steady, final, telling her that if there was nothing more regarding university matters, she could leave. Her entire body felt heavy as she slowly turned away, her heart breaking with every step toward the door. She walked out without looking back. Liwei remained seated, his gaze fixed on her retreating figure until she was gone. His chest ached, the weight of it almost unbearable. The moment the door closed behind her, his assistant entered, asking whether he had managed to talk to her and reminding him that the media team would be arriving soon. Liwei's expression grew colder. He told his assistant that he needed a moment alone. The assistant, slightly hesitant, asked if everything was all right. Liwei's voice hardened, firmer this time, as he repeated that he wanted to be left alone. The assistant quickly obeyed, slipping out and closing the door behind him. The room fell into silence. Liwei leaned back in his chair, closing his eyes as if to steady himself. He had thought he was forgetting her. He had convinced himself he had erased her from his mind. But just standing before him, she had shattered every wall he had built, flooding his thoughts with memories he couldn't escape. His chest tightened painfully, the ache of longing consuming him. No matter how much she had hurt him, no matter the words she had said to push him away, he still yearned for her. He still missed her, more than ever. Amara made her way back to the dormitories, clutching the document Liwei had given her tightly in her hand, her heart still aching from the fact that she hadn't been able to say what she truly wanted to him, and from how cold he had become toward her. As she walked into the room, Momo suddenly jumped in front of her, startling her. Amara let out a small smile, asking when she had returned. Momo replied that it had only been a short while ago and that she had been waiting for her. She added that she was happy Amara was finally back, confessing that being in the hospital for so long had almost driven her insane. Stepping closer, Momo quickly asked how things had gone between her and Liwei. if they had managed to fix things. Amara's expression shifted, and she told her that things hadn't worked out. She walked over to her bed and sat down heavily. Momo remained standing, watching her closely before asking if she hadn't explained herself properly. Maybe she hadn't made things clear enough. Amara shook her head and said that she hadn't gotten the chance to speak to him at all, and that it seemed he was truly done with her this time. Feeling sympathy for her, Momo sat beside her, her eyes softening. She told Amara that if they truly loved each other, they would find their way back to one another, and that it was just a matter of time. She admitted that she didn't know the full story of what had happened between them, but she knew that true love wasn't easy to break, that perhaps this was just one of the tests they had to endure. Amara felt a small wave of relief wash over her at the comforting words, and gave her a faint smile, telling her she always knew how to make her feel better. Momo joked that maybe she should start charging for it, before abruptly rising to her feet with a sudden idea. Her eyes lit up mischievously as she told Amara she had thought of a way to make Liwei come back. Amara looked at her curiously, ready to hear it. With a sly grin, Momo declared that most men's greatest weakness was beauty, especially when it came from a woman they loved. She explained that there was going to be a Wellness Day event the following day, and since Liwei was the university director, he would naturally be there. They should attend, and Amara should make sure she looked breathtakingly beautiful, so much so that he would see exactly what he was missing out on. She added that looking sad in front of him would only feed his ego, convincing him she was suffering without him. The trick, she insisted, was to appear glowing, radiant, and perfectly fine without him. Amara hesitated, telling her it would make her seem desperate, like she was trying too hard, and that wasn't who she was. Momo, however, pulled her up from the bed and told her to stop being so dull and boring, insisting the plan would work like magic. She dramatically proclaimed that Liwei, the great and mighty director, would come crawling back, begging not to lose her. Holding Amara's hands, Momo pleaded with her in puppy-eyed desperation to at least try it, saying it was the only way she would stop being sad. Amara still looked uncertain and asked what if it didn't work. But Momo assured her confidently that it definitely would, claiming she was experienced when it came to making men jealous. With excitement sparking in her eyes, she pulled Amara toward her closet to pick out the perfect outfit for the Wellness Day. The following day, the Eastgate University Wellness Day was held. Various organizations specializing in health and wellness were present to engage with students and staff. As expected, Liwei arrived at the event with his uncle. The moment he appeared, people around them couldn't help but marvel at him, gasping quietly as they admired how striking he looked. Walking beside him, his uncle chuckled and teased that he almost felt sorry for Liwei's future wife, since women seemed to lose themselves in his presence alone. Liwei smirked faintly, remarking that it was a good thing he wouldn't be marrying. They took their seats among the honored guests. His uncle praised him for how well the event had turned out, commending him further on how he had handled the recent scandal, that it had all died down now, which was good. He added that if Liwei continued to prove himself this capable, he would be the one to take over the company. Liwei responded with a practiced smile, but inside he loathed every moment he had to sit there and play the role of the dutiful nephew. The thought gnawed at him that this was the same man who might have been responsible for his family's deaths. His mind drifted back to the photograph he had found in his study. Wanting to test the waters, Liwei broke the silence and asked if his uncle had ever met May and James's daughter. For a brief second, his uncle almost panicked before quickly regaining composure. He claimed he hadn't met her, nor was he aware they even had a daughter. He asked Liwei why he was asking. Liwei replied smoothly that he had simply heard she was a good model and thought about featuring her in one of the university's advertisements, since Eastgate Group already had strong ties with May. His uncle shook his head, saying he hadn't known about her and that while he did have business ties with May, he didn't involve himself in her personal life. Liwei nodded, pretending to accept the answer. He remarked that it was a shame, as he thought May and James's daughter would have been perfect for the role, but he would look for someone else instead. His uncle fell silent, but Liwei's sharp gaze never wavered, watching him carefully, trying to decipher what exactly he was hiding. The question burned in his mind. What kind of connection did his uncle truly have with May and James? Why would he go as far as keeping a photograph of their daughter, the very daughter who now lay in a coma at death's door? Could his uncle also be tied to the sinister scheme of hunting Amara for her heart? As his thoughts raced, his eyes suddenly landed on Amara and Momo, who had just walked into the event together. He immediately noticed how different Amara looked. Her outfit was unlike her usual style, her hair styled in a way he hadn't seen before. His gaze lingered, taking in every detail. Amara and Momo walked side by side through the stalls, the air filled with the hum of chatter and laughter. Momo kept stealing glances toward Liwei, who sat quietly in the distance. Leaning close, she whispered to Amara that his eyes hadn't left her. Amara instinctively tried to turn, but Momo quickly caught her arm, urging her to act as if she hadn't noticed. "Just keep walking," she insisted. Amara obeyed, though her pulse quickened, a quiet storm stirring in her chest. A small laugh escaped Amara as she admitted she couldn't believe she was doing all of this just to draw his attention. Momo gave her a knowing look, reminding her that sometimes love required patience and a little courage. With playful determination, Momo pulled Amara toward a group of students standing nearby and effortlessly slipped into conversation. Amara, confused, whispered what she was doing. Momo only told her to follow her lead and appear engaged. Then, glancing subtly at Liwei, she whispered again. He was watching closely. Amara hesitated, shaking her head, doubting it would matter. To her, Liwei seemed unreachable, already moved on. But Momo quietly pointed out that if he truly had, his gaze wouldn't be lingering. Finally, Momo suggested that Amara step away for a moment, somewhere quiet, just to see if he would come after her. Amara resisted at first, calling the idea foolish, but with Momo's gentle push, she gave in. She slipped away into a quiet storage room, the noise of the festival fading behind her. Sitting alone, her mind filled with doubt. The plan felt childish, and her heart ached at the thought that waiting for him was nothing more than wishful thinking. Minutes passed. Her patience thinned. Finally, with a sigh, she rose to leave, silently scolding herself for believing he might come. But just as her hand reached for the door, it opened. And there he was, Liwei.